There are times in life when the atmosphere around you begins to send messages before anything physical shows up. Destiny is so sensitive that very often it is not what you see that warns you, it is what you perceive. Sometimes danger does not announce itself with lightning. It announces itself with an atmosphere, with a weight, with an impression, with a kind of spiritual scent that lets you know something around you is not normal. Many people ignore these signals and then they say, I don't know how this attack happened. No. Before the battle came, the realm of the spirit was already whispering. Every spiritual activity, whether divine or demonic, leaves an imprint, an aroma, a presence, a signature atmosphere. Just like you can walk into a room and know someone cooked something an hour ago, even if the pot is already washed. In the realm of the spirit, you can step into a space and feel what has been happening in that environment. Some atmospheres carry peace, some carry rest, some carry purity, others carry warfare, manipulation, heaviness, and intrusion. There are people who have walked into a house and suddenly felt their joy evaporate. There are others who have stepped into a compound and immediately felt spiritually dirty, like something is wrong, but you cannot place your hand on it. These are spiritual sense, discernment signals that something around your life requires attention. The problem is that many believers try to explain away spiritual realities with intellectual language, no matter how educated you are. The realm of the spirit does not bow to English grammar. You must discern. Tonight, I want to walk you through 10 unusual smells, not physical odors, but spiritual atmospheres that warn you that a negative influence or witchcraft-like manipulation is attempting to find expression around you. These are not for suspicion, not for accusation, not for attacking people. These are for awareness, so you can align yourself with light, prayer, wisdom, and the Holy Spirit. The first strange smell you will notice is the scent of sudden heaviness without cause. You can be laughing, joyful, productive, and suddenly a thick blanket settles on your spirit. You can't explain it. Nothing bad happened. Nobody offended you, but it's as though joy has been vacuumed from your soul. Many ignore this and assume it is psychology. Sometimes it is, but other times it is the atmosphere announcing that the peace God gave you is being contested. Anytime your joy disappears mysteriously, your spirit is picking up an intrusion. Another spiritual odor is the smell of confusion that comes like a fog. You can sit with a decision you have already made confidently before God, and suddenly you cannot think straight. Options that were clear before suddenly become blurry. People forget that confusion is an atmosphere. It has weight. It has temperature. It has a scent. When the enemy is attempting to distort your direction, especially when you are close to breakthrough, you begin to feel as though your mind is being pulled in 10 directions at once. Discern it. Something is trying to sabotage alignment. There is also the spiritual scent of unusual irritation and conflict. You wake up peaceful, but every small thing annoys you. People you love suddenly become irritants. You are triggered by conversations that usually do not affect you. When you see this, don't first look at the people around you. Look at the atmosphere. Witchcraft-like manipulation thrives on broken focus. If the enemy cannot push you with fear, he will push you with agitation, enough to make you speak wrongly, react wrongly, or make mistakes that shift your destiny off balance. Another spiritual smell is when you begin to sense anxiety that appears from nowhere. Anxiety has a spiritual scent. It has a texture. Even when you breathe deeply, it doesn't leave. Your heart may beat fast for no reason. Your body feels like it wants to run, but you cannot tell from what. It is not medical. It is not emotional. Your spirit is picking up activity. Something around your environment is not friendly to your destiny. And many times, your body interprets spiritual intrusion as fear. There is a smell that appears when the enemy wants to plant strange desires or sudden weakness. You can be strong spiritually, disciplined, consistent in prayer, and suddenly you lose appetite for prayer. You feel tired, but not physically tired, spiritually dull. Even worship feels empty. This smell is dangerous because it comes quietly. One moment you are on fire, The next moment, you feel empty and uninterested. Whenever your spiritual appetite drops suddenly without explanation, something is attempting to suffocate your fire. Another scent is the smell of unnecessary tiredness right before moments of destiny. You can be awake all day doing irrelevant things, but the moment you want to pray, the moment you want to study scripture, the moment you want to make a destiny decision, suddenly your whole body feels like it has carried cement blocks. This is not laziness. This is a spiritual odor telling you something is resisting your alignment. Many destinies were damaged, not because the person didn't love God, but because they slept through prophetic moments they should have stayed awake for. There is also the scent of repeating negative patterns. Listen, the realm of the spirit releases patterns the way the natural realm releases perfume. When you begin to sense the same strange occurrences happening repeatedly in cycles, accidents, losses, sudden relationship breakdowns, emotional crashes, you are smelling something. Patterns are spiritual fragrances. They tell you what is operating in a territory. Anytime events repeat themselves in strange cycles, your spirit is picking up a scent that says something here is not ordinary. There is a spiritual smell that comes as unexplainable resistance. You try to make progress in an area you know God has opened. Work, relationships, assignments, opportunities, and every step feels like you are pushing against a wall. This resistance is not natural. It is an atmosphere announcing contention. Something is trying to tell you back off. You must be wise to discern that resistance doesn't always mean stop. Sometimes it means fight in the spirit before you move. Another scent is the smell of sudden strange dreams. Dreams leave scents. If you wake up from a dream and your spirit feels dirty, drained, polluted, or uneasy, don't ignore it. The dream may already be over, but the spiritual odor it left behind is the warning. Pay attention to dreams that come with heaviness, darkness, or confusion. Sometimes the dream is not the main issue. The lingering atmosphere afterward is the real message. Something is trying to tamper with your destiny. And then there is the smell of isolation at the wrong time. There are moments when God calls you into solitude, but there are moments the enemy pushes you into withdrawal. When you find yourself wanting to disconnect from everyone, even from the people who love you, even from the community that strengthens you, even from the voices that guide you, discern it. Isolation can be a spiritual odor announcing that the enemy wants to corner you. No lion attacks until it isolates prey. Anytime you feel a sudden urge to disconnect, check what you're smelling. There is a smell that many believers ignore. The scent of coldness in the atmosphere of a home or room. Not physical coldness, a spiritual coldness. You walk into a space and something in you recoils. You can stand in your own living room and suddenly feel watched, surrounded, or unsettled. You can step into someone's room and sense a heaviness that does not belong to you. These are atmospheres. Whenever peace leaves a place, discern it. Peace is not an emotion. It is a spiritual presence. When peace walks out, something else walked in. All these smells are not to make you fearful. They are to make you aware. They are indicators. They are warning signs. Destiny has alarms, and discernment is one of them. When your spirit begins to pick up these signals, do not panic. Do not accuse people. Instead, align. Pray, worship, declare truth, reestablish your atmosphere, fortify your mind, surround yourself with light, and remember, no darkness can overpower a believer who is spiritually awake. And when these atmospheres begin to intensify around a person's life, there is something else that begins to happen, the alignment of voices. Have you noticed that when a negative spiritual environment surrounds a man, the wrong voices suddenly become louder? It is as though the enemy sponsors suggestions, ideas, impulses, and whispers that were not present before. You may not hear any audible voice, but thoughts begin to form. Thoughts that weaken your conviction. Thoughts that push you away from destiny. Thoughts that create fear where faith used to be strong. This too carries a spiritual scent. There is a smell that comes with mental pressure. When the enemy wants to wear down a man's resistance, he first wears down the mind. You begin to feel as if your thoughts are scattered across the floor of your soul. You sit quietly, but your mind is racing. You try to sleep, but your spirit is restless. Nothing around you has changed physically, but inwardly something is stirring. When the pressure in your mind becomes louder than the peace in your spirit, you are not dealing with ordinary stress. You are sensing an atmosphere that is trying to create an entry point. Another atmosphere you must watch for is the scent of sudden emotional numbness. You can be grateful, loving, compassionate, and suddenly you feel nothing toward anyone or anything. Your emotions shut down. You become indifferent, disconnected, and unbothered by matters that should concern you. This is one of the most subtle spiritual odors because it feels quiet. But numbness can be more dangerous than fear. When the enemy wants to desensitize a heart, he first removes sensitivity. Discern it. Whenever your emotions suddenly become flat without a clear reason, something is trying to tamper with your spiritual sensors. There is also a scent that shows up as unusual misunderstandings. Suddenly, the people who normally understand your heart begin to misinterpret your intentions. Words that should bring clarity instead create tension. Messages that should unite instead bring division. You begin to sense that communication is being tampered with. This is not normal. Witchcraft-like atmospheres thrive on miscommunication because misunderstanding is enough to break alignment. When you notice repeated misinterpretations around a season of your life, you are smelling interference. Another scent shows up as unexplained delays. Not genuine process, not divine timing. A strange delay that makes no sense. Things that should take 1 hour take 5 days. Opportunities that were already established suddenly freeze. Calls that should come through are mysteriously held back. Systems that usually work suddenly malfunction. This kind of delay has a smell. It creates frustration. It challenges patience. It stirs discouragement. And if you are not discerning, you will call it coincidence. But spiritually sensitive people know that unreasonable delay is often a sign that something is resisting movement. There is also the scent of fatigue in relationships that carry destiny value. The very relationships that once gave you strength suddenly feel burdensome. People who once inspired you suddenly feel distant. Partnerships that once flowed with ease now become difficult to maintain. When relationships ordained by God start feeling like unnecessary weight, it is often because the atmosphere around those relationships is being tampered with. Discern it. Sometimes it is not the people who changed. It is the environment around the connection. Another strange scent is when your discernment becomes blurry. You begin to struggle with hearing the inner witness you once relied on. You pray, but your perception feels dull. You search within for direction, but the clarity that used to rise effortlessly now feels hidden behind a veil. This blurriness has a spiritual odor. It often means interference is attempting to cloud your spiritual senses. When your discernment becomes dull abruptly, do not ignore it. It is the spirit realm telling you, pay attention. There is a scent that comes before spiritual attacks, an atmosphere of unusual coincidences. You begin to encounter too many accidents, too many mistakes, too many, I don't know how this happened, moments. People forget things that should not be forgotten. Systems fail at the exact wrong time. You miss steps you normally would never miss. These coincidences pile up until your spirit begins to ask, why is this happening this way? That questioning is your discernment detecting a smell. There is a scent that shows up as persistent inner warnings. You may not understand the reason, but something in you becomes uneasy about a place, a person, or a decision. The uneasiness follows you even when the environment looks peaceful. You shake it off, but it returns. You sleep, and it wakes you. You focus elsewhere, but it keeps tugging your attention. This is not paranoia. It is the Holy Spirit alerting you. When discernment whispers repeatedly, take it seriously. Another atmosphere you must watch for is the scent of spiritual congestion. This happens when your spirit feels crowded, as though too many things are trying to access you at once. You feel overstimulated inwardly. Noise seems louder, thoughts seem heavier, even silence feels intense. When your inner space becomes tight, it may be that something is attempting to gain entrance into your environment. Spiritual congestion is a smell, a signal that your atmosphere is hosting something you did not invite. There is a scent that comes as unexplained déjà vu tied to negativity. You walk into a moment and your spirit says, I've felt this before. But it's not nostalgia, it's a warning. It's that you have smelled this spiritual atmosphere somewhere in your past, perhaps before a previous attack, or before a previous disappointment, or before a previous loss. When your spirit recognizes a pattern you cannot explain intellectually, discern it. Atmospheres repeat themselves. The scent is familiar because the activity is familiar. Another smell is the scent of draining conversations. You meet someone, talk for a few minutes, and suddenly feel empty, tired, irritated, or spiritually weakened. The conversation may be normal, but the effect is not. People carry atmospheres, and sometimes what drains you is not the words. They are the spiritual contents behind those words. Whenever you consistently feel spiritually weaker after interacting with someone, you are picking up a spiritual scent. And then there is the scent of nighttime disturbances. You go to bed peacefully, but at night you wake up unusually, either with heaviness, discomfort, vague fear, or an unexplainable alertness. The night season is spiritually active, and sometimes your spirit wakes you because your environment is shifting. When your sleep becomes unusually disturbed without physical reasons, smell the atmosphere. Something is moving in your environment. And just as there are scents that warn you, there are scents that try to deceive you. Not every sweet atmosphere is spiritual. Some environments feel calm, but the calmness is manipulated. Some relationships feel soothing, but the peace is artificial. You must learn to detect the difference between authentic peace and seductive stillness. One is from God, the other is a trap wearing fragrance. Discernment is the nose of the spirit. It picks up what eyes cannot see. And when these atmospheres begin to cluster, something else starts to manifest, the scent of identity distortion. You begin to feel disconnected from who you truly are. Confidence that once came naturally begins to feel foreign. You start second-guessing abilities you once carried with ease. You look at your destiny and suddenly feel unworthy of it. This too is a spiritual odor. When the enemy wants to intercept a rising star, he first pollutes identity. If he can alter how you see yourself, he can alter how you engage destiny. There is also the scent that appears when words begin to lose their power in your mouth. You speak, but your own spirit does not agree. You declare, but your heart feels distant. You pray, but your words feel dry. This dryness is not mere fatigue. It is an atmosphere. When witchcraft-like interference hovers near a believer, one of the first things it attempts to suffocate is the potency of confession, because confession is a weapon. So when your words begin to feel weak, pay attention. Something is trying to mute your spiritual authority. Another scent arises in environments where strange distractions multiply. You sit to pray and suddenly your phone rings, your mind wanders, your appetite increases, your environment becomes noisy. Everything seems designed to divert your focus. Distraction has a scent, a spiritual smell that lets you know something is trying to pull your gaze away from what matters. Whenever distractions increase right at the moment of spiritual engagement, you are not dealing with coincidence, you are smelling interference. There is a scent that manifests as unexplainable loneliness even among people. You can be surrounded by friends, laughter, conversations, and yet feel mysteriously alone, as if you are standing in a silent, empty hall. That kind of loneliness is not emotional, it is spiritual. It is the smell of an atmosphere trying to isolate your heart so it can infiltrate your mind. Anytime you feel alone in moments of togetherness, your spirit is detecting presence, not absence. Another atmosphere you must be sensitive to is the scent of spiritual pressure around your chest or your back. Not sickness, not stress, a sense that something is pressing against your spiritual space. Sometimes it feels like a weight, other times like a tension. When this happens during moments of prayer or reflection, it often means your atmosphere is being contested. Your spirit is picking up what your eyes cannot see. There is also the scent that appears when your environment becomes unusually silent, not peaceful, but hollow. A kind of quiet that feels heavy, as though something is waiting. You walk around your home and sense that the stillness is not rest, it is observation. Many people ignore this because it is subtle. But spiritual atmospheres speak. When silence becomes unnaturally loud, you are sensing a presence. Another strange smell is when your dream life suddenly goes blank. You used to dream frequently, sometimes warnings, sometimes direction, sometimes encounters, and suddenly everything stops. Your nights become empty, not restful, just blank. This is not normal for a spiritually active person. Sometimes the enemy blocks spiritual access by shutting dreams. The blankness itself has a scent. It signals that something is tampering with the channels through which your spirit receives communication at night. There is a scent that shows up as compulsive thinking, not normal reflection, but thoughts that push themselves into your mind as if someone is injecting them. You try to stop thinking about something, yet the thought persists. You distract yourself, yet it returns. It's not just mental, it's atmospheric. When a thought enters your mind with force, persistence, and repetition, your spirit may be sensing interference. Another spiritual smell appears when people begin to act out of character around you. Individuals who normally show kindness start behaving coldly. People who are usually supportive become distant. Those who speak gently suddenly become harsh. When people around you take on attitudes that don't belong to them, something is influencing the environment. You are not just dealing with mood swings, you are smelling manipulation in the atmosphere. There is also the scent that comes as unusual loss of time. You sit down and what should take 10 minutes takes an hour. Your mind drifts. You find yourself staring into space. Time slips through your fingers without explanation. This is a spiritual smell. The enemy knows that destiny is tied to time. So one of the signs of interference is when your sense of time becomes distorted. Another scent comes through objects or spaces suddenly feeling strange. A room you always loved now feels uncomfortable. A chair you always sat on suddenly makes you restless. A gift someone gave you begins to feel heavy when you touch it. Environments carry imprints. Objects carry atmospheres. When a place or item begins to unsettle your spirit without a natural reason, your discernment is picking up a smell. There is a scent associated with strange coincidences in conversations. Someone says something that touches a fear you never mentioned. Another person randomly brings up a topic tied to your private struggle. You open a message and find a phrase that mirrors your hidden worry. These alignments are not always random. Sometimes the enemy tries to manipulate patterns to weaken your resolve. The alignment has a smell, a spiritual odor that alerts your spirit to heightened activity. Another spiritual scent manifests when your joy becomes fragile. Not gone, fragile. It breaks easily. One small inconvenience drains your energy. A minor issue feels overwhelming. A little pressure becomes heavy. This fragility carries a smell because normally joy has strength. When joy becomes breakable, something may be attempting to drain the oil that sustains your inner stability. And there is a scent that appears when your sensitivity to God's presence fluctuates strongly. One day you feel his nearness intensely. The next day, everything feels distant. Not because of sin, not because of disobedience, but because the atmosphere around you is shifting. God is constant. It is the environment that changes. When your spiritual sensitivity swings dramatically within short periods, your atmosphere is announcing that it is under contention. And when you stay long enough in these environments, another scent begins to emerge. The smell of energy depletion without activity. You wake up tired even though you slept well. You sit down for a few minutes and suddenly feel drained. No physical labor, no mental strain, yet your strength evaporates. This is not normal exhaustion. It is a spiritual withdrawal. Energy is currency in the realm of the spirit. And when a negative atmosphere starts stealing from your reservoir, your body responds before your mind understands. Anytime you feel unusually drained without exertion, that depletion carries a scent. There is a scent that shows up when your atmosphere becomes noisy with unspoken tension. You may be alone in your room, but your spirit senses friction, pressure, or agitation, as though something is pacing around your environment. You try to relax, but your heart feels alert. You try to focus, but your spirit stays on guard. This is an atmospheric smell. Your inner man is detecting motion in the unseen realm. The noise is not in the air, it is in the spirit. Another strong odor manifests when spiritual instructions become difficult to obey, not because the instruction is complex, but because something within you resists movement. God may prompt you, pray for 10 minutes, and suddenly you feel irritated at the thought. He may whisper, avoid that path, and suddenly you feel drawn to the very thing he warned against. Resistance to divine instruction is not always rebellion. It is often the smell of interference trying to redirect your steps. There is an atmosphere that releases the scent of ancient fears resurfacing. Things you overcame years ago begin to whisper again. Doubts you shut down return with fresh strength. Fears you buried start knocking on your mind. This is not memory. It is a spiritual attempt to reopen old doors. Whenever past fears start sounding current, your spirit is sensing the smell of an old cycle trying to resurrect itself. There is also a scent that comes when your environment feels crowded, even when you are alone. You sense movement in the spirit. You feel watched. You feel observed, not in paranoia, but in perception. Your mind is calm, but your spirit is alert. This is what many people ignore. When the spiritual density of a room changes abruptly, your inner man smells it. Something unseen is attempting to gain attention or influence. Another scent appears when your priorities shift without reason. Things that once mattered deeply suddenly feel irrelevant. Tasks that were once urgent begin to lose weight. Practices like prayer, devotion, planning, and discipline start feeling unnecessary. This shift is not laziness. It is an atmosphere trying to misalign your focus. When your sense of priority becomes distorted, you must discern the odor of distraction wrapping itself around your heart. There is a scent that emerges when your environment begins to interrupt your thoughts. You are thinking clearly, then suddenly your mind blanks out. You are recalling something important, then suddenly the thought slips away. You are meditating on scripture, then suddenly your mind goes empty. These interruptions may look random, but spiritually they carry a smell. Something is interfering with your inner flow. Another strong spiritual smell is the sudden amplification of insecurities. Ordinary concerns become exaggerated. Minor flaws become mountains. You begin to overthink your weaknesses. You question your worth, your calling, your identity. Amplification is a scent. It is the smell of an atmosphere trying to reduce your confidence and magnify your fears. Discern it. Not every loud insecurity is coming from within. Sometimes it is coming from around. There is a scent that arises when common noises begin to irritate your spirit. A door closing, a phone buzzing, someone walking, a distant sound. It triggers agitation in a way it never used to. This irritation is not emotional, it is spiritual. When your spirit is detecting interference, your entire sensory system becomes more alert. Physical agitation often follows spiritual disturbance. Another spiritual odor appears when certain people suddenly cross your mind repeatedly without reason. You are not thinking about them. You are not interacting with them. Yet their name, face, or presence keeps surfacing in your thoughts. Sometimes this is divine prompting, but other times It is atmospheric influence, especially when the person carries a pattern of negativity or manipulation in your history. The repetition has a scent. Discern it. There is also a scent that comes when you begin to feel rushed for no reason. You wake up with a sense of urgency that has no assignment attached to it. You feel pushed, pressured, hurried, as though something is trying to make you move prematurely. This is an atmospheric smell. The enemy loves to rush people into mistakes. Whenever you feel urgency without instruction, discern the scent of manipulation. Another scent manifests when you lose track of spiritual time. Hours pass and you realize you haven't prayed, haven't worshipped, haven't read anything edifying, even though you were not busy. The day slips away mysteriously. This is not poor planning. It is an atmosphere trying to rob your destiny of alignment. There is a scent present when your heart becomes unusually sensitive to wrong things. Conversations that once rolled off your back suddenly wound you deeply. Slight comments feel like personal attacks. Small disagreements feel monumental. Your emotions become fragile in areas where they used to be strong. This fragility carries a fragrance. It is the sign of a spiritual environment trying to weaken your resilience. Another spiritual smell appears when you begin to sense invisible resistance in your thoughts. You want to meditate, but the thought feels heavy. You want to examine your heart, but your mind feels foggy. You want to make a decision, but something inside you feels blocked. This blockage is an atmospheric scent. It announces that something is trying to hinder clarity. There is a scent tied to restlessness that follows you from place to place. You leave your room, you feel it. You go to another part of the house, you feel it. You step outside, you still feel it. The restlessness travels with you because it is not in the room. It is in the atmosphere trying to latch onto your spirit. When restlessness becomes portable, your inner man is picking up a smell. Beloved, when these atmospheres begin to surround your life, God is not trying to frighten you. He is trying to awaken you. Discernment is not given so that you may live in suspicion. It is given so that you may walk in victory. These smells, these signals, these spiritual indicators are heaven's way of saying, do not sleep here. Do not be silent here. Do not be careless here. Because the truth is this, nothing changes in the spirit until someone rises. Atmospheres do not bow to emotions. Interference does not withdraw because you feel overwhelmed. Darkness does not retreat because you are tired. It bows to understanding. It bows to authority. It bows to light. Every time your spirit senses these odors, this is not the moment to panic. It is the moment to engage the strength of God within you. It is the moment to raise your voice. It is the moment to cleanse your atmosphere through prayer, worship, strategic declarations, and alignment with the Holy Ghost. It is the moment to say, not here, not in my home, not around my destiny. For the enemy only prevails where ignorance is present. But the moment understanding enters a man, his environment changes. His destiny sharpens. His authority intensifies. His spiritual atmosphere becomes untouchable. So take these signs seriously. Guard your space. Guard your peace. Guard your destiny. Because every great person carries a fragrance in the spirit. And the enemy only fights what carries value. The warfare around your life is proof that something in you is rising. And now that your eyes have seen and your spirit has understood, may every atmosphere that does not represent God be scattered from your environment. And may you rise with a new sensitivity, a new awareness, and a new mastery in the spirit, so that no scent of darkness will ever catch you unprepared again.